that exists but can't be seen. It is the united hope of the future. Let's celebrate unity and connection.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hungama's workshop on Ultraviolet. My name is Ryan Lanji. I am the founder of Hungama. I am very excited to be here with a handful of my Hungama family to talk about the queer South Asian experience in the UK and get started. Everyone's here. Let's welcome people. 1, 2, 3, ready. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce my family. We BTS, no one knows how many times we had to do that. We have the lovely Ashley Chadha, we have Raheem Mir, and we have SEEVA joining us. SEEVA, where are you joining us from?
I am in New York right now, in the middle of a pandemic, which is a little bit crazy.
The lengths you'll go to actually make music. How long have you been there?
I've been here for 2 weeks, and before here I was in Mexico for 2 weeks doing music as well. So it's been a month nearly, but flying back this weekend. So.
Okay, brilliant. What we'll do quickly is we'll go around and everyone can introduce themselves, tell us a bit about what they do, and maybe mention your pronouns as well. And I will start. My name is Ryan Lanji. I am the founder and I guess man behind Hungama, East London's queer Bollywood hip hop night. I've also recently competed in Netflix's The Big Flower Fight, which I won, which I'm really proud of. But what I'm most proud of is the work that we've done in the queer South Asian community, raising awareness and amplifying creative voices within that community. And to my left, I don't know how anyone else is seeing the screen, is Ashley. Ashley, do you want to speak about yourself?
Hi, I'm Ashley/Bloom. I am a trans activist for all queer South Asian trans people, and I am also a singer, songwriter, and rapper. I've started releasing a lot of more music this year, and it's a new journey for me music wise. But in terms of trans activism, I've been doing it for a couple of years, such as Miss Transgender UK. And working with a lot of like smaller minorities of people who are PCO and stuff like that. So it's been amazing. But hi. Oh, it's she, her, by the way.
I'm he, him. Raheem.
Hello, I'm Raheem. I'm a dancer, choreographer. I am also an academic. I will be going into my PhD year come January, so I'll be like starting my doctorate next year. But yeah, I perform a lot of classical pieces, so I'm actually a Kathak dancer by trade. I'm also trained in a lot of contemporary work. I do Punjabi folk, including Bhangra Gidda and so on and so forth. I identify as he, him, or as that girl, that B, whatever you want to call me, just call me. But yeah, and I was actually the very first performer, very first queen to perform for Hungama when it started.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
And last but surely not least, we have the wonderfully talented SEEVA.
I am SEEVA. I am a singer, songwriter, producer, composer, just all things music, and he, him pronouns. That's me, I guess.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
The reason I curated you three to be here is because of the fact that I wanted to take the opportunity and thank Ultraviolet for inviting us into their space and allowing us to talk about the queer Asian community, especially with the spotlight in Dubai. I think it's super important that we have this chat. I invited you, Raheem, exactly for that reason, that you are the first, I would like to say, gender non-conforming performer that performed at Hungama at its inception before we even knew what it was. So I wanted to get your opinion and your experience and your observations. I invited Ashley because Ashley, you haven't actually been to a proper Hungama, but you've been
I haven't.
you've been such a huge part of the fabric of Hungama, and so you've interacted with everyone. You have relationships with people. So I thought that your perspective would be very important as well, to see what Hungama is like from the outside, especially someone who doesn't live in East London specifically, and but is very aware. So like, I'd love to get your notes on that. And SEEVA, you ended up coming to a Hungama right before lockdown. And you have actually been a fundamental part, a key connector in bringing everyone together through COVID. So it's been wonderful to have you. And I want to get some insight as to what that is like as well. So we have 3 different experiences in relationship to Hungama, but everyone is queer and everyone is South Asian. So can everyone tell me about the first time you heard about it and what your experience was like? Let's start with someone. How about you, Ashley? Because you heard, like, let's talk about how we met, and then maybe talk about like.
Oh, it's such a funny story. It was so basically I was living in Manchester, and there's a drag queen I know, Val Qaeda. She invited me out on a night out in London, called Club Kali. So I went and I met the You Don't Love Me boys there, and out of nowhere, this graceful creature walks up to me, right? And I'm with my brother. This graceful creature walks up to me and he's like talking to me. He's got like this Canadian accent. And he's like, "Hi, my name is Ryan." And I'm like,
I'm sorry, is that the Canadian accent? Is that my Canadian accent? Wow.
It was somewhat good.
That was a read.
I remember meeting you and I was like, come to the back, let's chill and talk and everything. And while we were having a conversation, he was telling me that he has this club night and everything. And I was like, yeah, okay, everyone says this. I was like, that's cute. And I was like getting dressed. I was putting a lenge chole on, and then we literally got out of the back room, went to the dance floor and danced for I don't know how long, for 20 minutes. In my lenge chole to some, like, I can't remember what Indian song it was. I really wish I remember which one it was, because it was such a mesmerizing moment. And then we added each other on social. And then I was like, wait, this guy actually has a night called Hungama. And I looked more into it, and I started seeing it was like for people of like queer LGBTQ plus South Asian community. And I was like, this is amazing. This is exactly what I've been looking for, and what a lot of people who don't know about places like this have been looking for. It's a safe space. So I was like, need to get on board with this.
Oh, cute.
Captivated from that.
It's funny that you say that, because we started Hungama 3.5 years ago, and it was galvanized just by the fact that I just didn't feel like I was 100% myself anywhere. Like, I was either in fashion or art or in a gay club, and it's very heterotypical venues as well. But when I was in gay spaces, they're very white centric and catering to a very specific demographic. So I started throwing this party, like DJing off YouTube and Spotify, and I literally didn't know anyone else who was South Asian and queer. But I had recently curated an exhibition called The Beauty of Being British Asian, and that's when I met Raheem. And that was in 2017, and Raheem showed up with orange acrylic nails on.
Yes.
And I was like, who is this? I need to know this Madhuri. And so I basically just like connected with you on Instagram. So can you tell us about that connection?
Yeah, absolutely. So my best friend, Jasmine Sarah, she was curated at the event. So I went and supported her there. And yeah, I can't remember what month it was, but I think I was on, judging by the orange nails, I was still on tour at that time.
It was September.
Yeah. So it was just like coming to the end of the tour. And I remember just coming in, and then Ryan, you approached me and spoke to me about this idea that you had for this queer South Asian space that you wanted to create and bring people into. And I think you'd spoken to Jasmine, and she'd said that, oh yeah, my friend's a dancer, like he's a performer, blah, blah, blah. And then, yeah, we just got talking. And from there, we went to the Glory, wasn't it? In Haggerston. And yeah, and I performed two pieces that evening. And it was actually my first time really performing or trying to fully realize who I was in terms of like my queendom, if you will, because I had done a lot of like androgynous pieces before. I had nice little pixie cut. I thought I was very Frankie Sanford from the Saturdays, so I was like trying to be her my whole life basically. And then yeah, then I remember I put a hairpiece on, I put like body on, I did the whole thing. I didn't have a beard then, so it was very much like the beginning of my journey in itself. And we had a great time. I did a pure classical piece, and then I did a sort of more of a Bollywood fun club piece, and we just went from there. And I think I continued to perform with you for a while whilst schedules were permitted, and then slowly and surely people then started to come forward and started to perform more, and you started to find a lot more other queens, and it was just very interesting to see from where it was to even now where it is now. But even just looking at the trajectory of it, if you are to see it from its origins, it's really come a long way, and there have been a lot of people that have now become sort of regulars, if you will, and people that now all know each other and have connected with each other. So I think it's a really incredible feat.
Thank you. I think it's so wonderful to think back about the times where it was just you, me, and maybe a couple of other DJs like hosting the night, because I remember I'd come downstairs and be like, Raheem, are you ready? And you'd be like, yeah, I don't know, like, are they gonna get it? Is there enough brown people here? And you went up
really
there and people were going mental for you. And I remember that time that you came in like full geesh at like Shoreditch House at SEEVA House, which is a members club, allowed us to do a party there, and it was for all of the members, and it's a predominantly not diverse space, especially on the weekends. So what I did with the other DJs is we gave the 100-person guest list to all of the South Asian community that were not members, so we could flood the space with color. And we had Raheem show up, and it was just when Gumar came out. And
yeah, Gumar had just come out. Ariana just released No Tears Left to Cry. So
yeah,
it was
so we
like anthem.
it was just a mashup, and you just showed up and like in the middle of Shoreditch House in this gargoyle, just like
with these,
spinning.
with these, I had 3 layered skirts on, I had oxidized jewelry on, I had a hairpiece, I had everything on. And I remember we were getting changed downstairs in the gym, and I had to walk from the gym all the way up to the performance space, and everyone was just like, what is going on? I looked really pretty.
You always look really pretty.
It was a good night.
SEEVA, I wanted to ask you
now.
how yeah, bye girl. I wanted to ask you how you heard about Hungama and what your experience has been like.
So I heard about Hungama years ago, like probably pretty soon after it first started. I remember I followed you on Instagram and I followed the page, and I knew about it, and I just never plucked up the courage to come. I wasn't very in touch with my brown side. I didn't really, watch Bollywood films that much, especially not in my teen years. And then this year, actually, I was in a play, and my first little kind of acting job.
Gig.
There was another South Asian girl, Anusha, in the cast, and this is like I've never been in a studio or a room creatively with another South Asian person. It's just so rare in my space. And I said, you know what? I heard of this club night called Hungama. It's on tonight. Like, why don't we just go? So we ended up coming straight after rehearsals. We didn't get ready. We came in like a t-shirt and joggers or something. And it was everything. I just walked in, there were a couple of butch drag queens in the middle of a dance floor making out, and I was like, this is my tribe, this is where I'm meant to be. And yeah, it was incredible. And what's really strange is that after that I was gonna come to the next one, obviously. And I think we'd even talked about me doing a song there, because I was just about to launch the whole my whole album project. And then obviously we will go into lockdown, and Hungama was one of the things that I think, and it's real credit to the power of it, that actually it grew and grew, and he did lives with different people, and actually the community found a space on the internet during the whole pandemic, and it wasn't just people in East London, it was people all around the world, and yeah, that's I really found a community there, and it was amazing.
It was really powerful, because I was just kind of like, shit, what am I going to do? This club night is dead, and it's like my main source of social currency and finances. And then I just had a moment where, like, when I was trying to calm myself down during the panic, and I was like, this is not about you right now, this is about all of the queer POC people who have come up through Hungama, who you are not acknowledging are living in flat shares. For those who are not familiar with London, most people live in apartments or flats with people, like 2 or 3 people, because it's so expensive. And these are kids who basically have probably been exiled from home or run away because of a conflict in interest with their family. And I was like, we need to keep them alive if they're following. We need to keep inspiring them. And so we started doing Hungama Lives at 6 o'clock on the dot every day. And I was just like, who do I interview? And I started to think about all the people that I was really grateful to know and work with. And I was like, let's give them a moment to chat and connect with the people who follow us. And so all 3 of you actually were interviewed on Hungama Live. And it was really great because, it was even at a point where, like, I didn't even know how to save IGTV at that point. Like, there wasn't even a facility to save the interviews. So some of them were like really, really engaging and well attended. And some of them had a really beautiful pickup afterwards. But it was phenomenal to see how it was a glue that kept a lot of people together. I wanted to ask you, all 3 of you, like, how important do you think it is to have a space for the queer Asian community anywhere, and how important do you think that it is public facing? One of the points of difference between our night and other nights that exist in London, a lot of people think that Hungama was the first Bollywood party ever, which is not true. There are nights that have existed for over 2 decades and have catered to queer South Asians, but in a very clandestine and confidential way. And Hungama, the reason why it's been celebrated is because it's the first time where we are public and we are out there and we're championing how crazy we are, and we're championing how big we dream, and we're letting people in to come and see that. Like, how important do you think that is for anyone?
I think there's definitely a need for both. There's definitely a need to have, a more private, discreet club night for people who, it's such a taboo still in South Asian communities to be gay, to be trans, queer in any, and a lot of people might be married before, into heterosexual relationships when they're not inclined that way. So I think it's important to have that, but at the same time, the fact that there is something like Hungama where people can come and be so proud of who they are in a public space and just unashamed, post about it on Instagram, just be loud, proud, queer and South Asian. I think that's equally as important, and going forward, it's going to be the way.
What about you two? Have you muted yourself?
Yeah, I did because I thought it was polite. Sorry, I just didn't want background noise. Yeah, I think like echoing what SEEVA's just said, I think it is really important to have an array of these nights and events. I mean, I never really went to anything like pre-Hungama, not because I didn't want to or I didn't feel accepted or anything. I just didn't really know about anything. And I feel like unless you were in a space or in a scene, or you had particular people that you were friends with, you weren't going to know about a lot of these things. And I think once I'd been approached by yourself, Ryan, and we, went into Hungama and we put it on such a large scale to the point where, we were shot by so many incredible people. I mean, Lily, was one of the people that would shoot. We had like BBC come in. We had like loads of different people that were coming into these spaces with us and sort of showcasing this. And then all of a sudden the others sort of started popping up a little bit more. And I think it really did encourage a lot of queer POC to just be kind of unashamedly themselves just for one night. And I think Hungama is great in the sense that it allows people to explore a completely different idea of what it means to be queer and South Asian on whatever other labels you identify or don't identify with. Because I feel that Hungama was kind of that cousin that every so often comes to like an event and kind of dresses up a bit differently, and everyone's a bit like, wow, they're really cool. My mum would never let me do that. What's it like having 4 piercings on one ear? Like, and do you know what I mean? Because I feel like everything else was so like, oh, we just want to be, you know, the stereotype of whatever people think that we are. So I think it really did then start to encourage people to come into different spaces. And then when you've collaborated with other people and other nights, I think it really showed the differences in like the clientele, and but it allowed people to open up more and to broaden their horizons more. So I really feel like it's aided a lot of nights as well to kind of explore different territory, essentially.
Yeah, because remember there was one night that asked me to come and do a DJ set after they came to Hungama, and I was like, "Oh, wicked! I'd love to do a DJ set at this night because I've heard about it for so long."
Yeah.
And then I went, and I remember you came, or you were going there anyways, and you were like there standing me, and I went on and I literally started DJing, and no one got it. Like there was probably 150 brown people, and no one was into it, and I literally was like, "Why don't they get this? Like it is." Major Laser with Chane Ke Ket Mein, or like Dawal
Yeah,
Dulanya with
and we
like,
were like really enjoying it, and they were like, no,
they're
we
like,
want
no
Bhangra,
remix,
we
no,
want
yeah,
this, no remix.
yeah, and
And then I
then
was like, but you
that's,
can do Bhangra to this. And I remember standing there on stage and I was like, Ryan, play the track. And I remember then I started to do Bhangra to one
yeah,
of your mixes, but they were still like, no, we don't want. And I was
I
like, you know what, you guys are never gonna understand this. I was like, just play them originals, just put
they, but do you remember
flipping
what they
T
did?
series on.
They got the DJ that was coming on after me to turn my channel off and play over me. So I was there with headphones on thinking I was DJing, and then when I looked over like on another booth, the guy had changed the music, and I just had a moment where I was just like, okay, we're not at this point yet where integration's important, but it's like, I think it's to echo what you're saying, it's like, so it was a really amazing point to create something that was such a caricature of the potential integration of music and creativity, and pair it and just see where people landed. So like there was a polarity that was important at that point, and like I didn't think that our music was bad because I love it, but I just knew that like there was a large demographic that just weren't ready for it.
Yeah, and I think you also notice that in the performers that are in the spaces and the people that attend these, like the clientele, but especially with the performers that are in the spaces. But I'll let Ashley carry on, and then I'll save that point for another moment.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
I think that's really relatable, because I remember like, you know, I remember like going clubbing for the first time ever, and I came out when I was trans, like really young. So, you know, being 18, my brothers wanted to take me out clubbing, and I was super nervous because I was like, oh my goodness, I was like, I can't reveal who I am, blah 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 blah. And I remember I went to this club called Grace in Piccadilly Circus there's like a club by McDonald's. It's called Grace or something like that. I feel like, SEEVA, you know where I'm talking about because you're smiling. No,
I'm like,
okay.
I'm like, what's McDonald's?
What's McDonald's? I've never heard of it. But
What do they do
I
there?
went to this club called Grace, and it was just like pop music, and I was this little little girl like running around the club like, I've never been here before. This is so cool. Oh my god, we get a drink. It was like it was exciting. And I remember coming across a club night called Bombshell, right, which actually started everything for me. Bombshell was a night that was dedicated to transgender girls and women. And I was so happy that I found a night where I could go be me and feel normal, right? It was amazing. And I remember going to these clubs, and it was just full of white people. And it wasn't like it was an issue or anything. It just felt like I didn't really connect with anyone, or I didn't really feel anything. And sometimes they used to play J-Ho, and songs like J-Ho, and songs like that typical Punjabi Bhangra song that you hear always coming on. That's the one. And And every time they used to play this song, obviously me being, you know, trans and Asian, a lot of people would look at me and I'm like, what? It's like it didn't feel authentic or natural. It felt very like uncomfortable. So I think when I look at places like Hungama, it's so important that we have club nights like this. And especially Hungama is so lucky because referring back to what you're saying earlier on, there've been nights where it's been catered for South Asian queer people, but I think we're in a stage in our life right now in society where we can have a night like Hungama and we don't have to worry about that night ever getting ruined because
Definitely.
the community is slowly more and more people are coming out and they're looking at Hungama as like a place of escaping and comfort, which is so important. And it's so important to so many transgender people within the South Asian community. I mean, being transgender and South Asian, it's like a death mark on your back. And
Yeah.
it's so important for places like this for people to
It's like,
escape.
if you're South Asian and transgendered, you get a free honor killing with purchase.
Yeah, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm still waiting to use mine, but it's like,
I was like,
sorry, that went
that's true.
You can see both of them just standing there like, oh, I don't want
But
to be part of
I know,
that.
they're just like, what? That is a really great segue into my next question. What I wanted to ask is, what does the future of diversity look like to you? I think like, Ashley, you mentioned feeling normal. SEEVA, you mentioned like feeling like you found a place where that you could belong. Raheem was like, you were a part of building a community with me. And like, there have been moments where like, I've been very aware of, integration and like taking over white spaces and having spaces where we did receive a lot of press for Hungama. I mean, after our third party, within a year, we were in BBC, Guardian, Vice, ID, in Time Out. Like it was phenomenal to see how many people were wanting to talk about what we were doing. But with that came a whole new crowd of people. And what I did was I took on the disposition of any Indian parent or respectable Indian family. They'd be like, everyone is welcome, come in, enjoy, have a seat. No, it's fine. But I didn't want to seem like the next door party that was Indian, that everyone was going to taste or try out. I wanted to create a space where we could actually really see how we could be the majority for once, and we could bring people in and let them be a minority, but flip the script and not let them be a minority and feel left out, but feel included, which I thought would create affinity and inclusivity. So what are your views on that? Anyone? You're still muted, Raheem.
I know, but I try and be polite, and then I try and do this, and then I let other people talk because I've just spoken.
No,
All right,
you
can
haven't.
just repeat the latter half of that question because there was a lot of words.
The question is, yes, the question is like, how do you feel about integration in these parties? Hungama's 3 years old, and even though we're in COVID, like, I just want to get your opinion on like how important is it to make sure that everyone's invited or that we keep it a safe space. There are a lot of parties that exist that I would say prioritize their demographics and their communities, but they are very specific about keeping it that way. And I think that it's best when everyone's allowed to come in and learn together. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that Hungama definitely is a space where people can learn about things. I think when you have an array of the DJs that you've all got very different sounds, you've all got very different energies and very different vibes, and I think it caters for all different types of people that come to the event. I think that the diversity that you see in Hungama, you don't see anywhere else. I feel like Hungama, for use of a better term, is kind of like the club kid movement of the queer POCs, in terms of South Asians.
I'm down with
Because I
that.
know that you have, because I know you have other events and other nights that really do encourage different energies and different vibes, but I really feel like for the South Asians, Hungama really gives you that alternative kind of queer night out, which is incredible in itself. And I think, like, going back to my previous point about like performers and stuff, like you see a lot of different types and different styles of performers at Hungama night, which you wouldn't necessarily see at any other night, especially for the South Asians. You see bearded queens, you see baby queens, you see queens that are just starting, queens that have been doing it for years. You see people that aren't necessarily queens, do you know what I mean? Or like just performers in general that do incredible things. And I think that's really important to show that there are different types of people that we all should be embracing, and different types of people that we should be celebrating, and that we aren't just all from one mold. We aren't just, you know, all like unbearded, or just like trying to be women, or trying to be men, or trying to be this, that, and the other. We're actually really embracing our queerness as a whole in these nights. And I think that's really important in terms of inclusivity and diversity. And I think other nights could really learn from that. And I think that especially during lockdown, with the lives, with the takeovers, it just shows people in different lives and different parts of their lives and different stages of living. You know, I mean, just this group alone, I mean, I'm not a singer. I mean, I've done a few world tours, you know, during my shower scenes, but other than that, I'm not really out here, you know, promoting and selling tickets. But like, it's incredible to have just like the three of us here who showed ourselves in different parts of our lives, you know, and different stages of what we're doing. So yeah, I think that it's really allowing inclusivity and diversity to settle in, and to show people that there are different types of people out there. And I think that we should continue pioneering that, because if no one else is going to do it, then someone needs to, and obviously we're the ones to do it at the moment. And that's all she has to say on that.
I like that opinion. I agree, but I disagree. I don't know why. I want to be that bitch. Oh, that girl. I want to be that girl. Ooh. Only for the fact that, you know, as South Asian queer people, we want to integrate. We want to be known that we are here, and we want to know that that safe place is for us. But I sometimes feel like with, you know, with what you're saying, Ryan, you know, when you've got some people who are coming in within the Asian community, but they're not part of the queer community, it then puts some of us like LGBTQ plus people kind of in a risk of an uncomfortable situation of like,
100%.
I don't know who this person is. We're not from the same pin. Do you know what I mean? It scares us a little bit. I mean, but the thing is the way you said it, Raheem, it sounds so beautiful, because it's like, we all want that. We want to be able to go to a party, enjoy it, and see and show our colors like a peacock feather, right? But it's just there's so many hunters out there trying to take our peacock feathers away from us that we're never able to really flourish. Do you know what I mean? It's such a interesting subject. Integrating is so scary but hard, but it needs to happen, basically.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, SEEVA?
I think it's a complicated one, because I agree with both of you. I think it's difficult when, you know, society as a whole, in, you know, in the UK at least, or in the Western world, and, you know, even especially in India with the queer community, but in other parts of the world, queer POCs, this kind of night is a necessity, because we don't get to feel that in other places. We don't get to feel like that's our space. I don't know if I'm talking for other people, but definitely I feel like I'm in someone else's space a lot of the time when it's you know, a straight night, or a very, you know, mainstream pop night, and that's the kind of music I write. And it's nice to have a space where actually this is just for queer South Asians. People are welcome. I remember, you know, when I came, there was a little terms and conditions note written by Nick Burke, and it was really, really well put. It was just like, you know, you're all welcome here, but remember this is a space, and take up their space here. You are guests, and I like how it was put, and I think that's, you know, while society is the way it is, that is I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's always been a situation where every time I throw the party afterwards, I have a moment where I ask myself, like, what was the balance like? Because I'm just very aware of like a lot of people coming in, because when we started the night, there was just us. It was just people that we knew, and the clubs that we like. So even if they weren't brown, there were people that we knew coming to the Glory or Dalton Superstore. But then when we started moving to places like Colors, and it started to become more mainstream, I would always have a moment while I was DJing, looking at the audience, being like, do I recognize these faces? And the last party we did in February, it was, I didn't recognize anyone, but it still felt really welcoming. And I'm not going to pretend that people didn't have altercations, because I think that I can't vouch or take accountability for people's interpersonal experiences at the bar or in the toilet or even at the venue with people who are not even attending the night. But I can say that overall it was a really nice vibe. And I do think that like the best way that we can start changing opinions is through visibility and through being a role model. And I think that's one of the reasons why I have a vested interest in keeping Hungama together as a family and checking in with each other and working together and supporting each other, like just completely unconditionally. Because by doing that, if anyone has an issue, we stand up for them, because we have a relationship with them, and they're not just someone who comes to that party as well, but we feel like brothers and sisters and non-binary kin.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah,
think,
yeah, you know, yeah, completely. Go on, SEEVA.
And I think having the like you said, it feels so welcoming. And that party you're talking about in February, that's the one I went to, and it felt like everyone had been there before. It felt like everyone was there, completely comfortable, completely in their space. I didn't really take notice of the demographics of the room, to be honest. It just felt like a space where I was completely welcome. And
good.
I think as long as the management, the music, the people who are organizing it, running it, you at the helm, as long as that stays to its core, the queer South Asian community, I think that's what it will stay. It's going to stay a queer South Asian event, no matter who the guests are of that community.
I'm going to ask another question. I want to ask you, because you all have a vested interest in, I guess, South Asian music and the genre of Asian influence in music. What do you see as the future of South Asian music? We had a really beautiful moment in the early millennium where R&B and hip hop was borrowing from Bollywood and being inspired by Bollywood, and it kind of disappeared. But I do feel like there's a resurgence. Where do you think it's going, and what do you think the possibilities are?
Ooh.
I'm gonna let these two head that, and then I'll come back at the end, because
yeah, you can wrap that one up.
yeah, let me wrap that.
I think the fundamental problem in the Western music industry, I can't speak for Bollywood or the music industry in other places, but especially with Europe and with America, is that it's so headed by straight, white, cisgendered men above the age of 40. And that's the problem. Not, it's a problem for anyone who isn't, the further away you get from that, from those labels, the harder it becomes to get investment, to get support in the industry. I think we're definitely getting to an age of the DIY artist. It's so much easier now for an artist to directly just put their music out. And what we're finding is that artists are so much more authentic. In pop music, in mainstream music, it's different, it's creative, it's cool. And there are some incredible South Asian artists coming out who are using influences from India, from other South Asian countries, but also from where they grew up, which might not have been there. It might be London or New York or LA or anywhere else. And that kind of mashup is really beautiful. Whatever way that happens, it's really nice to see.
And what do you think, Ashley?
Oh, I forgot I was muted. I think I agree. I agree to that, because it's so hard to kind of pinpoint and think, who do I know has incorporated like South Asian style music in like mainstream music that is Asian. It's so hard. It's so hard to think, like, who do I know? Like, who can I think? Okay, so Pussycat Dolls did it, Black Eyed Peas did it, Major Lazer did it, all these other artists did it. They took a tabla, they put it in the background with like a bass line drum, and some synthesizers, and you know, Kanye West rapped on that. Okay, but what Asian artist do I know has gone, this is my culture, I'm stepping up and I'm using it? I've not seen it. Like, the huge controversy I know is Sony Music. Sony Music have not signed an artist where they can use to utilize their culture and bring that to mainstream music. It's never been that case. It's never that, and we need that. That is so important, because music influences other music. Whatever song I play from my culture, whatever song someone else plays from their culture, we get influenced by each other, and that's what makes music beautiful and amazing. Music is the most creative thing that we have. So having Asian music or Bollywood influence, you know, Western music is so important. But I think people like to take an idea and label it their own, than rather than say, I was inspired by Asia. I was inspired by South Asian culture. It's weird, and I completely agree with what SEEVA's saying. It makes total sense.
I think that, like, in my experience now with Hungama, like when I started the night, there wasn't that many South Asian underground or indie artists, and now I feel like if someone asked me to DJ for 2 hours with only independent underground unsigned South Asian artists, like I could do it. Like, they are there. And so what can we do as a community to champion these people and like bring them to a more successful place where they can choose where they get signed because of their popularity?
Promote each other. We just need to, there's this thing within the community that is so important, is promote each other, promote each other, promote each other. The more you promote each other, the more you're creating visibility for each other. Stop promoting your white friend who's making music. Stop promoting your other minority friend who's making music. Promote each other as a community. Let's bring each other out there. As Asian people, we're always looked as the shadow that's kept in the side, that's like, they're Asian, it's fine. Well, no, we're Asian and we're here. Do you know what I mean? We're Asian, we rise to the sun. We are the sun. You know, we need to bring light to ourselves. So promoting each other is so important. Promote our artists, promote our dancers, promote our accountants, promote our lawyers, promote our doctors. Do it. It's just going to bring more love within our community. And we're going to get a little bit more visibility instead of being put to the side to kind of go, we'll deal with that later.
I think it's also...
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh,
no, go see that.
I think it's so important with, I think for South Asian artists, music artists in particular, it's about getting support not just from our community, because that's the thing, is that, you know, I know since I've released music, I've had some absolutely incredible support from the queer South Asian community and all over the world. And it's about, actually, that is a box and that's the demographic that we're in, but it's more than that. It's we're making amazing music, you know. You have Vardhan Aurora, and you have Leo Kalyan, and you have some incredible South Asian artists who are starting to really break through. You know, I think Leo won a Grammy for writing on her album, HL. I never know how to say that. But
we'll just go with it.
We'll go with it. But there are people who are starting to come up. You know, you have Danny Shah. There are lots of people in the background, and there is a bubbling up, and it's starting to happen, which is really exciting.
And Raheem, like, let's ask you the same question, but maybe transition it into a bit more about dance. And I know that you are a master, you're a polymath when it comes to different genres of dance. And what I love about what you do is that not only are you a performer on stage, but like you are, you understand technique and you understand history and its placement in the canon of Indian culture. And so, like, how do you see that being integrated into the mainstream in a way that makes you proud?
I think that people need to really take their time in understanding what they're putting out there. I think that people really need to take time in understanding the technique, the history, the meaning of something, because dance, I mean, obviously I'm just going to speak in terms of a dance and for dance, every slight movement has meaning, and it should not be taken for granted at what we're actually able and capable to do when it comes to dance and movement. A lot of people borrow from Indian technique. A lot of people have borrowed from classical forms. And I feel like people need to know that, and people need to understand and appreciate that. And I feel like even when people are out here performing, trying to, and now I don't want to sound too shady, but trying to do classical movement or trying to do, you know, folk movement, they should really understand what the form is before they go out there and put it out there. I think for me, because like, and the reason why I say that is that a lot of us have had training for many, many years and have tried to now take that foundation and build upon it, which I have done, I feel, somewhat successfully, in where I've been commissioned to do a lot of pieces, and I've done a lot of contemporary theatre and I've done movement theatre with taking, you know, a Kathak vocabulary and adding a stand-up comedy or adding in contemporary movement and so on and so forth. And I feel like people just really need to research and educate themselves before going out there and putting it out there on stage. Recently, you know, seeing people just putting on a bunch of like Bollywood sounding music, or, you know, just like generic Indian sounding music, and then doing like something to it on TV doesn't make us feel represented, and doesn't make us feel like, oh, they really know what they're doing. Actually, no, you don't, because this just seems like a massive mock and like a massive like finger point, which is like really nasty.
It does a disservice to the work that we're doing.
Yeah, it does. And it kind of makes a mockery of like a lot of people that have chosen to this pathway as their full-time career, or have chosen to show this and to educate the masses, and even their own people, you know. I mean, how many of us have really gone out there? I mean, I think I don't want to say the first, but I was definitely one of the first to perform. In fact, no, I'm going to say I was the first. I was the first to perform pure Kathak in a gay club or pub environment.
Yeah.
And like, and thank you so much. And like, but the reason why I did it was because that's my training, you know, and that's what I'm bringing to the space. And that's what I've been exploring through my dance and through my movement. So like, people should really be open to that and open to this idea. I mean, recently, another queen that's obviously performed with Hungama, Bolly Illusion, we did the run at the Glory, and it was so good to have so many different styles of dance within that. And you know, we had 4 sold-out shows, and the majority of our audiences were South Asian, which was incredible. And it really brought people together just to see that they were like, oh my god, there's actually a South Asian show that's happening in a really, really like white space. And that brought people to understand, and that some of my friends brought some English friends with them and people that weren't of South Asian heritage, and they absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
So I think going back to that sort of integration, you kind of have to bring people along that might have open minds. And I always say to people, like, it may not make sense to you, but it makes sense to someone, you know, and you should just understand that and appreciate that. The fact that this is somebody's thing, you might not like it, but I'm gonna, you know, applaud you not only for coming, but you should applaud me for the thing that I've just shown you. Like, take it on, see how you feel, and then move on with it. Like, it's cool. So I think that's how we need to infiltrate the mainstream, is to actually have educated people showing people what needs to be done.
I think that's a hugely important point, like especially with social media and people like being inspired by what we do, and how we exist and how we live authentically and enjoy our culture and reconnect with our culture. You do run the risk of a lot of people just putting something up and it becoming really popular, and people thinking that that is the coolest form or the newest form,
real
and
thing.
Yeah. And so I think what I've done with Hungama is I've always elevated the aesthetic of the South Asian community. And like, my thing is like, I won't do it unless it's cool. It has to be fucking cool, because I want people to realize that we don't have to be put in a bridal trade show or be from an Indian magazine or only on a certain channel affiliated with a certain major like UK programmer. Like, we can actually be a part of the mainstream and be seen as epic and seen as vanguards. And so at that point of you saying that, like, it's important to understand where things have come from and educate yourself and master what you're doing rather than just throw it out there, especially with this rise of TikTok and Insta Reels. It's like, just because you can do snap your fingers and have Mandy on doesn't mean you've done Mandy properly. And that wasn't a read because I haven't actually seen that. That would be a really sick TikTok.
No, but it's true. Like, I mean, it's about like now the big trend is like, let's just find a song and then we do a dance on it, and it is like something like TikTok where somebody will find it, somebody will find it, somebody will find it, and it just goes on and on and on. And now it's been distilled to the point where you'll have a bunch of like brown TikTokers will be doing it. Then all of a sudden, it's actually the Caucasian TikTokers that are dancing to Galaguria or whatever it is at the moment that's out there. And everyone's like, oh my God, no way, like this is so, and you're just like, so why am I only getting 2,000 views? And yet Stacey and Nicholas over there are getting, tens of thousands. Like, it makes no sense. Why?
Yeah, no.
Like, but then, so then if I now, should I just like, I don't know, do Kathak to Adele and everyone will be like, oh my God, he's taking a white song. Like, do you know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense, but like, it's great. But for me, I see that as, do you know what, that's cool, because our music is actually reaching something and reaching someone, and someone's going to go, oh yeah, that's really cool. So next time you go to someone's wedding, or the next time you're driving down Southall Broadway, or the next time you're near near just anything Asian, remotely Asian, you'll hear that and you'll go, oh, that's cool, because that's a thing, and that's like South Asian culture. It was, I mean, obviously, Ryan, as a DJ, it was huge when Punjabi MC worked with Jay-Z, and that was like a whole big thing.
That was a moment.
I think this is our Jay-Z moment now through TikTok.
And I think that what you're saying is really important. And I think it's important for all of us to just realize that power, and that power being unified and actually like knowing when something's great and promoting that. So like, we all need to work together. We all need to celebrate our visibility and creativity, understanding it at its finest form and celebrating that as a family, as a community. I think that is the future. I only have a couple more minutes of your time, so I'm going to ask you a question that is quite inspired by Drag Race. But if you, which you might love, I do not have pictures of you as children, but I'm going to ask you individually, if you could say something to your 9-year-old self, what would it be? And if you, go ahead. Let's start with Ashley. If you could say something to your 9-year-old self, what would it be?
You're beautiful no matter what. You'll get there. Things take time. And people will think you're being shady when you're just nice. But just keep smiling and remember that no matter how horrible people are to you, a smile never hurts. That's what I'd say.
Thank you. And yourself, Raheem?
It's going to be hard. It's going to be very tricky sometimes, and you're going to have some seriously low moments, but just know that you have a really serious talent, and to never ever think that you're inadequate and that no one does you the way that you do you, and you are really going out there and you're going to do some big things. And and that you don't need anybody like a man by your side to tell you anything, because you're a strong, powerful person, and that you can go out there and do what you want to do, and you will always have better makeup skills than the queen that's next to you, so don't worry about that.
And my darling SEEVA, what would you say to the 9-year-old Taran?
I would say, you may be told right now that you're going to have to work 10 times harder than everyone where you want to go, 20 times harder because you want to do music. And you might feel alone, but working that 10 times harder, the payoff is always going to be worth it. You're always going to feel euphoric when it works out. And there is a community, there is a home for you, and you can go out and make it for yourself.
Thank you. I want to thank all three of you for taking the time to come here and talk about Hungama. And above and beyond that, I want to thank you for taking the time to help Hungama grow from strength to strength and be how I imagined it, and if not even better. I adore all of you, and I want to thank Ultraviolet for letting us come in and have a chat. Everyone in Dubai who's watching, like, it's never too late to be you, and it's never too early to be you. Follow Hungama at HUNGAMA_LDN on Instagram, and we have everyone's Instagrams here. We'll make sure that we get them linked with Ultraviolet. Thank you guys so much for joining us. It's been really lovely.
Thank you for having us. Thank
No
you,
problem.
Ryan.
Well, thanks.
I hope to see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.
See you guys soon. Bye.